Ding dong, the Sturgeon's gone, pun intended. So is it the end of the woke as we know it? It is surprising how many lost memories from childhood bubble back up to the forefront of our minds when it is our time to become parents. Like some enormous download of stored wisdom, experience and guidance to help us for what lies ahead. We remember the times of sadness in our early years as if they were yesterday, and we attempt to sever that channel of emotion for our own kids. Likewise, we cherish the times that we felt loved and secure, and we do our best to make sure that we pass that gift on for our children to do the same one day in return. We fail constantly because we are human beings and we are imperfect, to say the very least. But generation after generation, we are constantly trying to improve the delicate recipe of life. Wisdom passed on from parent to child, repeating and repeating. Societies are like families in that way, slowly cooking away, improving with every new generation. And until recently, it seemed human beings had reached about as close to harmony that these deep-rooted infections would allow. The eternal genius of Martin Luther King telling us to judge what lies beneath these layers of thin skin rather than the colour on top of them. To work towards equality of opportunity for all and to the end the horrors of racism and segregation. That no matter who you were, there was a place in society where you would be recognised and represented. It almost seemed by the turn of this century that we were nearly there. In our affluence and leisure, we even took time away from our own worries to turn our gaze on the world around us and how it could be improved, nurtured and conserved for generations to come. And then all of a sudden, the whole intricate process shuddered to a halt and a great reset took place. A silent revolution had begun. Mankind turned inwards against itself. As Cooper mused in the wonderful film Interstellar, we used to look up to the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt. It all began with language. We didn't notice it at first. We thought it was politically correct not to say certain things. We were embarrassed at the words our forebears used to describe others. We were happy to modernise and update our constantly evolving language. A little nip here and a little tuck there and move on. But for some, a little nip or tuck will never, ever be enough. Words themselves, even the most benign of all, became tools of oppression and violence at worst and indicators of unearned privilege at best. There could no longer be justice, for example. It needed a modifier, so justice became social justice. Privilege, immutable by dint of birth, was odiously modified to the exclusive property of anyone with vaguely pinkish skin. Perhaps most ridiculous of all being that in our desperate desire to eradicate Granny's rather embarrassing utterances whenever she called someone a coloured person, we just reversed the order of the words and everything was just dandy. Person of colour? Fine. Coloured person? Bigoted, racist, devil. Distinction without a difference in the war for words. Language stopped becoming a way in which we would communicate and connect with each other and started to become a means of exerting power and control over each other. People started to keep their mouths shut for fear of stepping on a linguistic landmine which could destroy their entire life. Today, polling reveals half of Great Britain are frightened to speak their own minds, and that can't be good. But why stop there? Wondered the leisured ideologues aimlessly plodding the corridors of our universities, institutions and seats of government, looking to bring about the great change. Why just modify words when you can change their entire meanings altogether? And we're better to start than man and woman. At some point during this dizzying decline in peaceful human improvement, those who seek power and control over us for our own improvement turn their eyes on simple biology. There is no such thing as male or female. Those two immutable and entirely different sexes suddenly became a scale. One could, in one's narcissism, place oneself self-importantly on wherever one liked. Today, identity matters far more than actual reality. This obviously has a few predictable drawbacks, such as broad-shouldered men with autogynephilic fetishes, putting on a women's swimming costume, hopping in the pool, beating women sounding in competition, then popping to the dressing room to ditch his costume and offer glimpses of his penis to the girls whose sporting futures he'd just destroyed. The girls were instructed to be silent and not to voice their fear at sharing protected private spaces with a dude, or even at the unfairness of it all, but for fear of future repercussions from their entirely understandable fury. But swimming races and penises in dressing rooms are one thing. Violent rapists in female prisons are something entirely different. As we saw this week, common sense and reality came home to roost for one of the speech suppressors in chief, the Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. First, there was the highly controversial Gender Recognition Reform Bill, which was returned to sender shortly after it arrived in Westminster. Then came the 50-second interview, which starkly revealed the ridiculousness of the woke ideology to the public. We can't show on here because it belongs to ITV, but let me give it a go like this. It went, are trans women women? Well, yeah, but no, but can they go to prison? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's like Vicky Pollard and Jimmy Kranke's love child. Anyway, convicted rapist Adam Graham had decided to chuck on a wig, call himself Isla, and was no doubt salivating at the idea of sharing his sentence locked up alongside some potential future victims. But it seemed this time the public just couldn't take the madness anymore. The backlash forced Nicola into a hurried retreat and announced that Adam wouldn't be getting the holiday of his dreams after all, and the First Minister of Woke and her cronies who wished to police speech around the family dinner table had gone just one step too far. A sudden awakening from the wokery seized the public, and she is now, thankfully, bye-bye. You see, that's all it takes, really. People to stand up and say, no thanks, not interested, don't want this stuff anymore, to this insidious secular religion, which is a danger to the existence of women, delights in the sacrifice of the mutilation of children, hates the family and the passing on of wisdom in favour of celebration of the self and all the darkness which comes with it, and which has damaged societal discourse and, most importantly, freedom of speech, without which democracy is an illusion, in such a fundamental way. It can be stopped when confronted head-on, as we have seen with Nicola. It is my hope that the fall of the Sturgeon signals the beginning of the end of this ideological woke supremacism. And when future generations look back at this era of fundamentalist nihilism, they remind themselves of just how easily the complex intricacies of societal harmony can be destroyed in an instant.